Hey guys, it's Tom here. Great to see you again. I haven't made a video for about 3 months in Tom's classical irregular video uploading style. There's good reasons though. I've been away and I've been doing kind of quite a lot of stuff. I've actually been living in a different country for a couple of months and and loads of stuff's been going on in my life, so I just haven't got around to uploading any videos even though I was really missing it, so I'm happy to be back. So the topic of this video, the reason I'm talking really fast is I'm going to try and keep it short because I just tried to make this video and it went over 20 minutes. So it might be a one of two-parter, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But I want to talk about depression in INFJs. I'll be honest, I've just kind of gone for a bit of a down period myself, been feeling pretty low. I'm coming out of it now, feeling much better. But it was amazing in one way to kind of be feeling depressed, but at the same time kind of understanding and knowing why it was happening, and kind of being able to view it from the other side and go, oh wow, this is because I'm now in an NITI loop, and now this is my SE and all this kind of stuff. Although it didn't necessarily make anything easier whatsoever, but I kind of knew what was happening. So I thought I'd just share my experiences briefly as I can, and also explain how an INFJ falls into depression and how it feels, because it feels pretty shit. I'm going to be honest, it's not nice. So basically, a INFJ, and just a quick reminder of the cognitive functions: NI, FE, TI, and SE are the 4 cognitive functions, but you also have to be very aware, especially when it comes to talking about depression, of the role that FI, an introverted feeling, plays in an INFJ. It is kind of INFJs are very feeling creatures, but we're not necessarily the most adept at knowing what to do with these feelings, like maybe an INFP is. When we feel feelings, we can kind of quite easily be overwhelmed by them, which is why it's so important that we learn how to extrovert our feelings into the world, or through artwork, or anything that gives us a place to work with these feelings, rather than doing what most INFJs do, which is trying to think about their feelings and figure them out in their head, and then getting into a shitload of trouble and problems and issues and just bad times, which is what happens to an INFJ when they try and figure out their feelings. So when this happens to an INFJ and they start just getting locked into their own heads and relying on introverted thinking, which is our tertiary function, therefore it's not that well developed. We love to think, but at the same time our thinking usually thinks us instead, and we usually fail to see when it is becoming illogical or false, or it doesn't have any validity, and we just get caught up with it, kind of like getting caught in a snowball that's rolling down a hill, and the snowball's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and this thought suddenly is taken on a life of its own, and then you smash into a tree and it's all kinds of pain. So that's the kind of TI for an INFJ when they get stuck in the NITI loop. So you're thinking constantly, you're not extroverting anything. NI is constantly feeding in these new kind of perceptions and thoughts and angles on something. So it's like fuel is constantly being added to the fire. You can't get out of it. You get into a loop of constantly thinking. You end up doing weird things like going to a party and spending like half an hour at a party and then thinking, I actually need to go home and think about this party. I have things I need to contemplate. And then you just disappear out of a window without telling anybody, and then spend the next 3 days locked in your bedroom. This is kind of what is the beginnings of being stuck in the NITI loop. You just don't care about socializing. Everything starts to become kind of too superficial and meaningless, and you feel like there's too much of this deep stuff that you need to figure out, and these philosophical questions, and you need to go home and figure that shit out and just think in your mind. Unfortunately, the more you do this, the more associated feelings of pain, frustration, anxiety, anger, shame, guilt, whatever, all of those kind of heavy feelings you start to feel in yourself. This is all coming from our introverted feeling, which is very underdeveloped. So this isn't so great, we don't like this, and eventually we're like, oh, this isn't any fun anymore, I'm feeling pretty down, and the world isn't fun, I'm not enjoying anything anymore, I'm just stuck in this really kind of quite like negative thought pattern, I'm feeling really, and the way that we try and feel better about this is then going further down our function stack to our inferior function, which is SE, or extroverted sensation. And when this happens, oh dear, this is not pretty. This is not good. This is not good, I can tell you, because this is what happens to me quite often. So this is when suddenly we just want, suddenly, you know, as INFJs, we're not usually that very aware of the present moment and what's around us. We're not very good at that. But suddenly we just want sensations. We want to eat sugary foods. We want to start drinking more alcohol than we usually drink. Our self-control goes out of the window. Also, we become horrendously bad at kind of getting sleep, eating meals at the right time. Maybe you stop showering, maybe you stop brushing your teeth. It's just all of that stuff that is to do with being aware of how to look after yourself in the present moment goes out the window. And you just allow yourself to kind of fall apart in a way. But I don't know about you, but when I found that I get into this state, there's this weird sense of almost self-destructiveness. And it's like, you're like, well, fuck it, I'm here now, I'm just going to keep pushing myself until I almost get to breaking point. And that really does not impact you very well, because if you're feeling down and then you stop looking after yourself in that way, or just seem to not be able to do it, it's only going to make you feel worse anyway. In the moment you think, oh, all of these immediate pleasures are helping me get out of my head and kind of get into the present moment, but what it's really doing is actually you're just making it worse, because you're not doing things that are actually healthy and constructive for you. And when you've been stuck in that kind of space for a while, like you're just start to turn into this catatonic mess, and then the feelings are still there and they're worse than ever before. And usually these feelings, for me, it's like complete and utter, like everything becomes meaningless. There's no meaning anymore. And you just feel so overwhelmed and overburdened with sadness and misery and self-pity. And not only pity for yourself, pity for the world. All of the idealistic, positive kind of imagery and visions that you once had in your wonderfully imaginative mind become dark and grey and clouded over, and suddenly you don't care about humanity anymore. It's just fucking, it's meaningless. Nothing's ever going to work. We're always going to just keep on repeating all of these shitty self-destructive patterns. Suddenly you only seem to be aware of the negative things in life. You become just a right Debbie Downer, basically. You can't see the silver lining anymore, and existence just seems to be a horrible joke that, you know, you've just been kind of kicked out of a lovely, warm, comforting womb into this horrific place called existence, called life, and you don't want to be there anymore. And it's just, for an INFJ, it just becomes too much. You lose all motivation whatsoever to just even get out of bed. You just lie there and you just think, and you start to realize that you feel more comfortable just thinking and living in your imagination, because your imagination is so much nicer than reality, and you can just stay there and it's warm and cozy, and the more you think you're figuring out life and you're figuring out your problems, but then you realize you just spent all day lying in bed, and that makes it even worse, and that makes you don't even want to be in a human body anymore. It's just like, I don't want to do this, it's too hard. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's kind of how it is. That's how it feels for me, and I think that's maybe how it feels for other people who've been INFJs and gone through depression. And it can get pretty bad if it gets even worse than that, to the point where it's just like you feel like you just want the ground to swallow you up, and there's just no meaning in anything anymore, and you just become completely catatonic about everything. And yeah, luckily for me, I find when I start to hit that edge, something usually kind of twigs in me, like a little bit of extroverted thinking kind of steps in and goes, right, soldier, you gotta pick yourself off the ground and get going again now, because you've spent a long time here and it's really not there's no point in staying here any longer. It's really not fun whatsoever. And usually I find I can usually kind of crawl out slowly, but I can usually crawl out. of those kind of periods, but it's pretty horrific, and it can be pretty, yeah, it's not nice. Basically, it's not nice. But when is depression ever nice? Anyway, that's kind of my experience of it. I'm going to leave the video closed and leave it here. I've probably already gone for freaking ever anyway. And then in the next video, I'm going to talk more about what to do to kind of combat depression, and what to do when it starts to set in to kind of get yourself out of it. But at the same time, respecting depression, because usually there is there's a reason that you're feeling it. So maybe talk a bit more about that. Thanks for watching, guys. Lovely to make a video again. Hope to speak to you soon. See ya.